Welcome everyone to this video where we're going to be looking at 3 tips to find the right words when speaking in English meetings. This is a video topic I wanted to do for a long time because it is something that I see a lot of my clients struggle with as legal professionals when communicating with clients and colleagues in English and international meetings. So without further ado, I'd like to get into it. I'm going to be sharing my screen. I'm going to be sharing some slides to just show you. So let me just share that now. Yeah, so here we go, 3 tips. So let us just take a look at the common struggles that I hear from clients, that I've heard for clients over several years of working with legal professionals. So do any of these ring a bell for you? Do you struggle with these? Maybe when you really don't know how to explain a topic in English at a meeting, and that is something that you struggle with, or that you don't have enough vocabulary and you can't remember key vocabulary when in an English meeting. That could also be a challenge for you. And the other thing is that you freeze in a meeting and you can't find your words. So you might struggle with all of these. You might just struggle with one or two. I'd love to know in the comments if you want to put it in the comments. Which ones do you struggle with? Do you struggle with all three? Do you struggle with just one of them? Yeah, I'd love to know. I don't have the number, but maybe you can put in number one, number two, number three to let me know because you're definitely not alone. I have chosen these because these are things that come up again and again, and they're things that I thought of myself. I think these things are not even exclusive to speaking a second language, especially the first and the third one. I don't know how to explain a topic, or I freeze in a meeting. I think these are really, really common ones. So nothing to think that they're strange or nothing to be ashamed of, because they're totally normal. So let's move on. You might have put it in the comments. I'm not sure if I can see that at the moment, or I will respond to you after this live if I don't respond to you now. But let's move on to the first one. The first one being, I don't know how to explain this topic in English. Now, we're looking at 3 common struggles, but actually, interestingly, they can be. I just want to check something as well. 1 second. Yes, okay. I was just checking my mic because sometimes, yeah, you get tech problems that my sound is not working or something. Yeah, so what I was saying about these 3 problems, if we just go back to them for a second, if we go back to the second slide, um, these can be divided as well into what you can do in the long term, what you can do in the medium term, what you can do in the term in terms of preparing for a meeting. So what I mean is, of course, it's important to prepare for meetings. Sometimes you can't prepare in these cases, and in these 3 struggles, I'm going from the first one is one that you can definitely prepare. The second one is something that you can be doing on an ongoing basis. The third one is something that is happening in a meeting, and it's difficult to foresee or to, to prevent even this happening. So it's about managing it in real time. So we'll be going into each one in detail. So yeah, let's take a look at the first one where, your research and your preparation are really important. So you can see here on the slide my suggestions for not knowing how to explain this topic in English. And my first piece of advice, and I think it's always a good one, and I'm sure you do this as a legal professional anyway for your job, but doing your research, do your research. Use the tech tools to your advantage. And I put here ChatGPT and Google. You might be against using ChatGPT or AI, but I find it very useful in my own business and with my clients. I've had good results with that. So, but whatever you use, you could just use Google just as well. But it's about seeing how other people or how other how AI is suggesting that you explain this topic, because there's nothing completely original with what you're saying. Somebody has said what you have said before, even if it is a new idea, a new case. There's always some kind of history, or some kind of thing that you can reference, and somebody has said what you want to say before. That, I think that's a good thing to reassure yourself with, is to remember that, and it's out there if you do your research in advance, if you have that time. And I have included here a ChatGPT prompt. If you want to explain a certain topic, I gave the example of the European Convention on Human Rights and the Article 3, which is a prohibition of torture. I was actually doing something on that with a client last week, so I decided to include this example. But you can use any example, or whatever is relevant for you in the meeting that you will be dealing with. And I would be asking ChatGPT, I wouldn't be relying on their information 100%, because there are, of course, some limitations, and there have definitely been some really bad cases of people getting knowledge wrong. I've heard of a lawyer in the US who lost his job because he referenced things from ChatGPT in a case, and it was completely false information that he got from ChatGPT. So we definitely need to take it all, and even Google, we all need to take it all with a grain of salt, using our critical thinking skills. And as a legal professional, you have plenty of those. So you could do your own research, make your own judgment. But I would say it's a good starting point. And the reason how I would be using ChatGPT and even Google is not so much to get the accurate information, but looking at how things are said, things are communicated. Again, you'll need to make your, have your critical thinking on that, because it's not always completely 100%. But, looking at a few sources, making a few searches, not just relying on one source or one look at ChatGPT, but just taking a range of them, is going to give you a good idea of the kind of ways that you could explain a topic in English, the way that you could express something. So that's my first point about doing your research. And the second point, I think, very interesting, and we all do it to some extent, but I find this is the most dynamic way. And I think many of us don't realize that we could do this, or that this would be beneficial. Rehearsing ahead of time, of course, we all do it. We write bullet points and notes, and we might read it over in our head. But you can go one step further and do what I have suggested, and I would highly, highly recommend this if you have the time. And to do this regularly as well, so it will build your confidence with explaining topics in English. So setting a timer for 2 minutes, or it doesn't have to be exactly 2 minutes, but depending on how long you want to explain the topic. And always, I think, being more concise is actually more difficult than speaking at a lengthy time. And also there are of course advantages with being concise. You could review your work easier, and more easily. You can review your work easier. You can review your work more easily, and it's much more manageable to just do it for 2 minutes. So then you have your voice recording. You record yourself speaking for 2 minutes about this topic. Afterwards, of course, you listen. That's the hard part, I think, listening to your own voice, but it's very, very powerful. Listening to your own voice back in English, you'll realize the gaps, maybe the words you were searching for, gaps in your knowledge, how you could improve your sentence structure, even pronunciation. We're really focusing today on finding your words, so more about the vocabulary, but you can look at all aspects of how you communicate in English and improve for the next time. And the next time can be making another recording. This is completely free to do. You can do it yourself. You don't need to do it in front of anyone. It's free as well. So really, I would encourage you definitely to do it, because then you're going into the meeting and it's not the first time that you have explained this concept, especially if it's a concept that's really important for your work, or that you're nervous about presenting. Maybe it's quite complicated. Maybe there's a lot of vocabulary and things to remember. So, you know, explaining that to yourself, recording yourself speaking a number of times is going to make it much, much easier. And you'll go into that meeting knowing how to explain that topic in English. And then when inevitably, of course, we all get nerves, we all get nervous, you can manage that you know, anxiety or those nerves because you've done the work and you can rely on what you prepared, even if you feel nervous. So yeah, that's the first one. So that's something that is looking at, you know, preparing beforehand. You can definitely prepare beforehand, and I would encourage you to do that. Okay, then the next one. So the next one, I don't have enough vocabulary or I can't remember key vocabulary when in an English meeting. So what do you do? Well, here I have a few points, but the main thing is to be prepared. Always join the meeting with notes, and if you have no time beforehand, you can even make your notes during the meeting. I know that sounds strange, but I've done it before. You can either be taking notes of what people are saying, but also reflecting on what people are saying and writing down what you might say in the future, like a few minutes later, especially if you're participating in the meeting and you're going to be saying like a key point. So think about that. Like not everyone is the same kind of learner. We all learn and we all manage our note taking differently. But I would guess if you are a legal professional, you're used to reading and writing a lot, relying a lot on text, relying a lot on the words written on paper. So I think taking notes and making notes, whether that's before or during a meeting, it's going to help you a lot with having enough vocabulary to key vocabulary because you're going to be brainstorming different words. You're going to be thinking in English actively, either in preparation for the meeting or during the meeting. The next point is brainstorming 10 to 20 keywords in English to help you explain the topic. And I've definitely talked about this in a previous video, but I think it's an important one to remember. You could use ChatGPT or Google even to generate some of these keywords to get you started, and then you can even find even more specific keywords. So that's something to use. I didn't include here to use a dictionary, but that would be great as well if you used a dictionary to find synonyms, to find expressions. But you know, I would say don't go overboard. You don't need to overstudy, overwork on this. One word to explain this topic, one word that explains it well is enough. Yeah. And then finally, use memory techniques to link new vocabulary to existing knowledge. Now, I have a video on this. I have a few videos on how you can remember vocabulary better, and I will try to link this video. But this is really important. And, you know, when you can't remember key vocabulary, it can be really frustrating. But the best thing you can do, and the fastest way you're going to remember key vocabulary in my experience, both as a student and as a teacher, is linking new vocabulary to what you already know. And whether, you know, that might be the word might be already have Latin root, it might have a kind of French or Italian root, so it might be easier for you to understand. Or you can make up kind of stories about the word and link it to things like in French, the word le chantage is blackmail. In English, yeah. So in English, it has a funny word, blackmail, like so email, like black email. I don't know. So you could think of it like that in English. And chantage it reminded me of chanter in French, which is to sing. So what I did is I imagined somebody when they are blackmailing somebody that they are singing. And it really, really stuck. This word really stuck for me. I remember learning it in a TV series and just actively at that time, just that's how I took it in. Didn't need to write down the word. I just remembered it. I made a very clear picture in my head of this word and somebody singing when they were blackmailing. So it really, really helped me. And I would encourage you to do the same to help you to remember vocabulary when you're in an English meeting. Okay, so we're already about 15 minutes in, so I want to keep going and I want to go to the last one, which is I freeze in a meeting and I can't find my words. Okay, so I have quite a bit of advice for this, but the first thing that's really important is, managing your nerves and your anxiety by slowing down. So breathe. I hate when people tell me to breathe, but if that works for you, you should breathe because it does help. It helps you to physically slow down. Take a glass of water. So I have my water here with lime and mint in it, actually. That's what that's in it, if you can see my camera. But taking a glass of water gives you that chance to pause literally for a few seconds. So it can help you to slow down and to feel less anxious. You can pass to another speaker if possible in the meeting if it allows for that. It mightn't be possible, but that is a solution. And use the 5-second rule to restart something. So the 5-second rule is really simple. It's from an American personal development speaker, Mel Robbins. She has a whole book on her approach. But it's literally when you want to start something and you feel nervous or you don't want to do something, you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, and you start. So that's a good way to restart because it gets you out of the overthinking, gets you out of your head, and you just start like that. Another thing linked to that I think is really interesting. It's about buying yourself more time. So this is a technique you can use. So I have a little phrase. So imagine you freeze in a meeting and somebody has asked you a question and you just, that concept that you've been preparing all week for, you just freeze and you don't know what to say and you're just so nervous. You could say something like this. Before I answer, could you share a few more details about what you need or what you're looking for? So that really puts the ball into the other speaker's court, as we say in English. It puts the ball in their court and basically passes the question back to them and gives you more thinking time. So even if you feel like, you don't need this, it's just a good strategy if you're feeling nervous. And if you are feeling nervous, you probably need this, and having more details will help you reflect on things. It might, some of the words might come together. A few ideas will come together. You can even be taking notes or making a few links. So it's just giving you a bit more breathing space and time. Another thing that you can do, and I think this is really helpful both for you and um, also for the speaker to make them feel good about themselves, because I think I think this is a coaching technique, but reflecting things back to someone else, what they have just said, it kind of reassures them. So if you mirror the question or comment from a speaker, it can really work. So you could say something like, based on your question related to the contract and you were expressing your fear over, well, fear is a strong word, but you were expressing your concern that this deadline could not be met within the time frame, especially with the reduction in the number of staff we have and coming up to the Christmas holidays. So, you can really reflect back on what they have just said. Again, it's giving you some runway. It's a bit like, taking a airplane, it's giving you a bit of breathing space and time to introduce the subject. And finally, you could paraphrasing is powerful, and I think I could probably do a whole video on how to paraphrase effectively, but it's about rewording what you want to say. And don't focus on the specific words, especially the ones you don't know, you've forgotten. Focus on the overall message. So that's really important to remember. And finally, these are just some very practical things that you can look at. So when you don't have the exact word, use a synonym. Okay, so that's quite self-explanatory and important, but use a synonym, another word that has a similar meaning. Or if you don't have a synonym, why not use the opposite word? So you can say, if you don't remember bad, you could say something that's not good. That really works, and it can even sound quite natural. It doesn't even, sometimes people don't even notice that you don't have that exact word. It works very well for adjectives, especially. You can state the purpose or function. So you can say it's used to do this, it's a person who does this, it's a thing that does that, for example. And you can also state what it is approximately. So it's a kind of house that people live in. Yeah, it's a or it's a kind of contract that we use in for intellectual property, something like that. So you don't have the exact name, but you can give that approximate detail. So we are just finished those three challenges that you might have in a meeting and three tips to find the right words when speaking in English in a meeting. Now, I would say the main thing is preparation is key, and also don't panic. You definitely have enough, and just buying yourself some time, managing your nerves, slowing down. All of these things are going to help you. And I just wanted also to share with you the details of if you want to subscribe to my newsletter. I would highly encourage you if you like what I have shared because I share videos like this all the time and you can get the latest updates. You'll be the first to hear about these events and you'll receive weekly newsletters with tips, lessons, strategies to help you get unstuck with your level in English and to show up with confidence show up with confidence in English to your work as a legal professional. So thank you for watching this video. I'm going to stop sharing and I will talk to you in the next